hello from Bali. This is a podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about stand-up and let's start with the definition.
Stand-up, it's a genre when a person stands in bar or somewhere where people could be gathered and start to make jokes. It was a time when even Eddie Murphy, well-known and famous actor, was starting like a stand-upper. In Russia, we have very well-known show. It's named Comedy Club, and it's now dedicated just to stand-up. When it starts, there is a frontman, special person, who breaks the ice. So he starts to make jokes for famous guests, for bloggers, for artists, or some other people who well known to the public. Then they start to make conversation and some short shows, and these shows could be divided for several parts. And at one day, it could be like 3 shows. And usually, people who make stand-up became very famous if they do their job well.
And if we actually would look into the structure of the stand-up, especially comparing it to other humoristic numbers or performances, it seems that they don't need like any attributes or whatever, any team or whatever to perform. And the way it's getting the popularity is actually more or less like increasing. So what might be, I would say, like a special sauce that people actually would like in order when they see someone performing and telling them the stories of their lives?
To be honest, the main line or red line in those shows is the toilet humor. So it is below the belt. It's okay to say below the belt? Ниже пояса?
Below the belt. Or...
Below the belt. Yes, you're quite right. And several decades early in the Soviet Union, it was another show. It was named like KVN. I don't know how to translate. Club of, how to say? Funny and
street smarts.
And street smarts.
Street smarts.
Yes, correct. Street smarts. Thank you for this phrase. Yes, and they also were doing some shows and some performances without any decorations and without costumes. So they were quite funny because they were sharp joking. It was like a cutting edge of the humor. Was something close to the cynicism, close to the satire, and so on. But stand-up, very adult humor. So sometimes it's about vagina, penis, and something like this. And people are hesitating because they, from one side, they are shy to hear something, but from other side, no one else could make such jokes.
But maybe this is what actually makes people to be open about this kind of jokes. Not really open, but like opening up and trying to hear someone else. Because sometimes it might be feeling that the person, they might be having some sort of either like a child trauma or like a social trauma, and they just like opening out in front of the people and wrapping it up nicely. Hence, people might be feeling the connection. Hence, they're actually laughing. So whether this also might be, I would say, another leverage of getting the right way to the human heart.
Yes, you're right. If we'll compare this kind of show, maybe the closest one would be Moulin Rouge or Crazy Horse in Paris. How it looked like. You sit in the hall, and there are a lot of tables. You have champagne, you have some snacks, and before show start, you drink some, and you will make jokes with people who sit close, and then you will see naked bodies, and some of them are pretty ones. So you look like to see something very unusual in the keyhole. The same in stand-up. By the way, I live in a quite huge house in Moscow, and inside, in the yard of this house, is a restaurant, and it is comedy restaurant. And each Friday night, they have a great show, and it would be like 200 people who paid at least 10,000 rubles. They would try to sit in the restaurant and they listen to the jokes, and best jokes would be bought and they would be pronounced from the scene when it would be recorded for central TV channel. And sometime I ask my friend come to this restaurant because I know that some very prominent stand-uppers would be on the stage, and sometimes they make jokes but no one laughing because it's too sad to hear. And sometimes it would be just a simple coincidence or simple misunderstanding, and everyone is saying, oh, come on, it was a great joke. So it also depends from the mood. And if you hear the joke, you could laugh because you are drunk enough, or maybe you will not drunk because you sit with a girl or with boys which are quite polite, and you couldn't show that it is for you is acceptable.
Well, actually, there's might be a slightly interesting twist in our conversation. It also seems that basically maybe there is a correlation with the, like tension or like maybe lease in the society where the humor actually becomes more valuable, meaning that, like this is being definitely industrialized and definitely being used for like a different type of the forces or for different type of the reasons. So is this correlation exists and the humor was commercialized and maybe even politicized, or at least was used as one of the many leverages in order to get for someone to what they want?
Several years ago, it was a short form of humor. It has a name, anecdote, and it was very well leveraged by special operations. It was like KGB, and if something happened, it was very easy to create anecdote and flow into the ears of the crowd, and people will retell. There is a book. I couldn't remember the name. It could be Last Republic or maybe Day M, but the author is Viktor Reznik or Viktor Suvorov. It's the same person. First is his nickname and second is his family name. And he was telling something like this. It was a holiday, state holiday, and two girls were jumping from the plane on the parachutes, but suddenly one girl could not manage to open the gear and he fallen up, and for sure he died. But KGB in a very fast mode issued an anecdote that it was a jump from a girl named Tanyushka or Tanya and I don't know how to say, bag of potato and мешок картошки. Tanyushka and мешок картошки. And everyone was laughing, and in several hours everyone was forgetting that it was a jump of two girls. The same with stand-up. If you will hear this carefully, you will notice that very often they touch some very sharp themes about politics, but only in state mode. So they will never argue with government, and they will never tell against officials, high officials or president, because they know what will happen if they do. The show will be closed immediately.
Well, I do believe sometimes it's also maybe as if they were playing the role of a gesture, like someone who is kind of allowed to say certain things, but still certain invisible barrier. And when we're speaking actually about interacting with the crowd, because as I see, stand-up is more, is more, I would say, crowd-driven as well, because sometimes people would interact with the crowd, and it's also become an actor. What kind of skills, or maybe what kind of level of professionalism or competences the stand-upper will need to possess to manage the show correctly?
You ask a very good question, and I like to answer it. It was time I was producing this show in Ukraine, and I have some friends of mine who were managed to write texts, to write jokes, and also to tell them from the stage. And to write the joke, it's quite a job, because they should show these jokes to some special people who are responsible for public affairs, and they should create from one side a very sharp jokes, but those jokes could not cross the edge of official politics. That's first. Second, not to many people the stand-up is understandable. For example, if you live in another region in a small town, some jokes would be out of your mind because you couldn't understand why people do like this. For example, there is fashion, I don't know to say, moda, but maybe not a fashion in translation. For example, in Moscow, people will come to one club and then they will stay there for 20 minutes and they will switch club, and for one night they could visit like 10 club for 20 minutes, and it's quite usual. They looking for atmosphere, for music, for their friends. But for example, if you are from small town, you will stay in same club because there are no other place to switch. The same with jokes. For example, in Moscow there is a special region, we call it Patriki. It's a special kind of ponds, and the name is Patriarchia ponds, and this is a very funny place because a lot of geeks are collecting there. For example, people, they be called like plates, I don't know how to say correctly, in Russian тарелочницы. They just came, they try to eat, and they will be paid by the man. How to translate this? Plates girl?
Maybe plate girl, something like this.
Plate girl. Another kind, it's very rare for Russia. It's like, I don't know how to say, transvestite. It's okay to say?
Transvestite.
Transvestite. It would be girls or boys, but they will switch. For example, I don't know how to say, artificial hair, парик. It's okay to say?
Artificial hair, yeah.
Artificial hair, and they will switch to another gender stereotype wearing and so on, and they are not hiding, but they make épatage. I don't know how to say, this is a very French word. It's okay to say épatage?
Yes, it's épatage.
They try to make épatage, and they do not intend to be serious. It's also kind of joke. And stand-uppers, they also use like a flashlight to highlight all of these very strange things. And if you have seen this in the middle of the city, you will laugh because it's really funny. But if you, for example, from Siberia and you have never seen it, it would be not understandable.
Well, and I also think at a certain point of time when those people trying to highlight different things, depending on the, let's say like a customer or like a user feedback, they might be seeing that, like something works, something doesn't work. And maybe their own user persona, the way they, deliver the messages, the way they speak also might not be working. So what kind of adaptability or mobility they have in order to adjust, to keep doing their craft and keep attracting the crowd?
They work in a very fast mode because if something happens, for example, 2 hours ago, they are forced to talk about this. If something very sharp would happen in the society and stand-uppers would not reflect in the nearest day, the day after it would be too late. So they work as a mirror. For example, there is a newspaper in Germany, the name is Spiegel, and Spiegel, it's like a mirror. And there are not such newspapers in Great Britain or USA, or for example in the Russia, but there is the very right word to explain what they do. If you will see, if you will hear the jokes, you will understand that they use a special term. It's called arc. I don't know how to say. Is it okay to say arc? Arc.
Could be called arc.
They use arc, or rising up or falling down, and first they start in slight mode just to make usual jokes, and if they see that crowd is aggressive, they will make aggressive joke. So sometimes they have the same jokes, but they have rehearsal them in a different mode, in polite words, in very I don't know how to say, jargon words, and also unpolite words.
Well, then my last question will be how knowing about stand-up could help to make this world a better place.
If you're novice and you do your speech not often, it's quite acceptable if you will start it from the joke. And stand-up is quite a good genre to make everyone laugh, to break the ice which would occur between you and your auditoria. But if you are advanced one and you make those speeches quite often, you will never use it. Stand up is not a high level art. This is just art for, I don't know how to say, but in Russian there is a word подворотня. I don't know how to say, like yard corners, or I don't know how to say.
Or maybe from the bottom.
From the bottom. So yes, it is quite usual to use such a jokes in a cycle of the friends, but if you will meet the colleagues or even bosses, you or your spouse, it is not allowed to use such a style.
Well, and we review the skill of stand-up and how it could be useful for you. Stay in peace.